Do you know what's in these? And what these are made of? Even this car that I made with my kids, it's all made out of plywood. Do you know what's in it? Neither do I. All right, so I'm here in my kids' playroom, and I'm sitting here with all these toys that we've purchased to enrich their lives and make, just things a lot more fun for them. As I started to research this project, I thought I was going to be talking about plywood and the best choices for plywood when it comes to making kids' toys. I had no idea where this was going to actually take me. Now that I'm sitting around all of this plywood and plywood toys, I'm thinking to myself, I really should have known this stuff, but turns out very few people do. Companies like Lakeshore Learning, Grimm's, or Melissa and Doug have really helped to popularize wooden toys. But we don't really know what all's in all the wooden toys that we bring into our house. As I started to research about plywood, I realized that there's so much more that we need to know about the toys that we're putting in the hands of our children. So everything from this toy, these puzzles, this little toy here, the car that I made with my kids, this bookshelf behind me, and even this that my son likes to push around the house. All made from plywood. In fact, the table that they're sitting on is made from plywood. It's everywhere. Plywood is a favorite choice of woodworkers and manufacturers everywhere. Like so many parents, we have purchased toys and furniture for kids that has been made out of plywood or some other type of engineered wood. A toy made out of the right kind of plywood can last a lifetime or even generations. Engineered wood products make up $284 billion of our GDP. By 2027, they're expected to hit over $400 billion. Of that $284 billion pie, $23 billion of it is just in wooden toys made out of engineered woods. That doesn't even account for the wooden furniture that we're putting in our children's rooms. There are over 18 types of plywood. Seriously, any plywood manufacturer can adapt their plywoods to meet the needs of the manufacturer. And it's not mandatory that toy companies actually report what's in the plywood that they're using. Toy manufacturers and furniture companies tend to use two specific types of engineered wood: hardwood plywood and MDF, or medium density fiberboard, which isn't even a plywood at all. MDF is made up of tons of little fibers of wood that are glued together. They are great for fillers. When coupled with traditional plywood, it becomes extremely strong. It is cheap, it can add density and strength without adding the cost of real wood. And MDF can be made out of recycled wood. Now, when it comes to hardwood plywood, Baltic birch is by far the favorite among woodworkers. Every layer is made out of Baltic birch, and every layer is cut to a specific thickness. Baltic birch usually comes with 9 to 13 layers. One of the main reasons to make toys out of Baltic birch is the fact that the thick plies make it difficult for the wood to splinter. However, there are some things that we need to consider. All of these engineered wood products are held together with glue. Glue we know very little about. Companies share surprisingly little. Most glues come out of regions from China, and they fall into three basic categories: urea formaldehyde, melamine urea formaldehyde, phenolic urea formaldehyde glue. What do all these have in common? You guessed it. Formaldehyde. We're just going to concentrate on the most common type. Urea formaldehyde glue is the most common. It's in literally everything. It's all around you. You probably can look and touch something right now that has urea formaldehyde glue in it. 80% of products out there are made from urea formaldehyde glue. The specific volatile components are not easily accessible. For many manufacturers, you can't even find them. Some compounds are considered extremely volatile, and some are considered non-toxic at all. However, for my kids, your kids, for the work we do here at Creative Maple, we are just going to assume that all glues containing formaldehyde are actually toxic. In 2013, North Carolina State University did a study on plywood, specifically dealing with the off-gassing from formaldehyde. They found that off-gassing actually drops after a significant amount of time. However, by trying to seal or paint or varnish or stain the face of plywood, you actually reactivate the formaldehyde off-gassing process, and it can reach dangerous levels again. That doesn't mean you shouldn't use plywood, it just means that you need to know something specific about it. Most of the off-gassing takes place from the edges of the plywood. They found that by sealing the edges of the plywood, you could actually eliminate between 54 and 75% of the off-gassing that would normally happen when you are painting, staining, varnishing, or even just trying to seal the formaldehyde gases in. Some of the things that they found were incredible and really made me stop to think, how have we been treating plywood all my life? I've been in construction. I'm a woodworker. I use these kinds of materials all the time, and I didn't know this stuff. Now, this information will single-handedly change the way that I do things in my shop. It will also single-handedly change the way that I do any construction project from this point forward. I said that eventually it returns to undetectable levels. However, in 2019, North Carolina State University returned to the study of formaldehyde and found indoor air quality is greatly affected by the off-gassing of formaldehyde. In fact, it is the primary reason for poor indoor air quality. They even came back with some major recommendations that shouldn't be ignored, specifically for the way we manufacture and treat plywood in the construction industry and manufacturing. First of all, they wanted to change the way that things were defined, whether it was toxic or not toxic. The assertion was that more vulnerable populations, like children, are going to be exposed to these because they are operating under the guise that it's safe. One of the most striking areas of reevaluation is the idea that recycling is the answer. A lot of places are saying, hey, we use no added formaldehyde glues. And that's true. They use non-formaldehyde glues. However, the wood that they're using is usually recycled wood, and that recycled wood also contains formaldehyde. We already know by introducing new solvents and other additives that we reactivate the formaldehyde off-gassing process. So it defeats the purpose to use a no added formaldehyde glue when you're using a primary substrate that includes formaldehyde. Recycling may be good for the environment, but it poses a significant and immediate risk to our homes and for those populations who are more at risk, specifically children. But that doesn't mean that we should burn the place down. I want to go back to the science. The North Carolina State University study says that undisturbed underlayment or undisturbed plywood actually doesn't pose a major threat. The only proven thing when it comes back to the science is sealing the ends of the plywood actually makes a difference. So there is one thing though, MDF. MDF is near impossible to seal. Because MDF is made up of glue and wood strands, it tends to soak up any moisture that comes in contact with it. The edges of MDF will become impregnated with whatever it is that you are trying to seal it with, swell up, and compromise the integrity of the MDF. It's one of the reasons why I don't like MDF to begin with. While I use it in my shop for a variety of things, it is not good for children's toys. Now, some may think I'm being an alarmist. However, over the last 25 years, we have seen an incredible rise in engineered wood products in our home. Anything that's made from chipboard to plywood to medium density fiberboard, this stuff is everywhere and it's in everything. I don't want to steal the joy from our children, but what I want to do is I want to make sure that whatever it is we're putting in the hands of our kids is actually something that we know about, something that we feel comfortable with, something that we have the ability to make an informed decision about. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to put a seal coat on all the edges of all the plywood toys and all the plywood puzzles that we have. Anything with MDF is just going to have to disappear because you can't seal MDF. And in the future, I'm going to be very careful about the types of toys I buy, making sure that I don't buy anything that includes MDF, and when I do purchase something, I'm going to either make sure that it is already sealed on the edges, or I'm going to make sure that I can seal it in the future. That's pretty much it. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button. Hey, thanks so much for watching. From our creative maple family to yours, stay safe in the shop.